The surgeon's scar. Can faith heal a broken heart? The rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor was the only sound that pierced the sterile silence of the operating room. Adéwunmi, her brow furrowed in concentration, delicately maneuvered the scalpel, her movements precise and swift. Sweat beaded on her forehead, mirroring the tension that coiled within her. Outside, the Lagos sun beat down mercilessly, but the air-conditioned theater remained a frigid sanctuary, a stark contrast to the turmoil raging within her. As she worked, a chilling memory surfaced: the crash of shattering glass, her mother's slurred screams, the acrid smell of gin that permeated their home. It was a recurring nightmare, a constant reminder of the fractured childhood she desperately tried to bury beneath layers of success. Adéwunmi, a rising star in the Nigerian medical field, had built a formidable reputation for herself. Her surgical skills were legendary, her intellect razor-sharp. Yet, the accolades, the admiration, the overflowing trophy shelf in her meticulously organized apartment, none of it filled the gaping hole in her soul. A wave of dizziness washed over her, and she gripped the scalpel tighter, knuckles white. The patient, a young boy brought in after a horrific motorcycle accident, lay motionless on the table, his life hanging by a thread. Adéwunmi pushed the memory aside, focusing all her attention on the task at hand. She had to save this child. Later that evening, exhausted but exhilarated by the successful surgery, Adéwunmi returned to her apartment. But the silence that greeted her was deafening. The emptiness that had always lurked beneath the surface now seemed to consume her entirely. She poured herself a glass of wine, the icy liquid offering little solace. Suddenly her phone buzzed. It was Chica, her childhood friend, her anchor in the storm. Chica, with her infectious laughter and unwavering faith, had always been a source of comfort for Adéwunmi. "Adéwunmi, darling," Chica's voice, warm and soothing, filled the room. "How are you? I heard about the surgery. You were amazing as always." "Amazing," Adéwunmi echoed, the word tasting like ash in her mouth. "I'm just tired, Chica, so tired." "Come over," Chica insisted. "Let me make you some of Mama's jollof rice, and we can talk about anything." The invitation was a lifeline. Adéwunmi, hesitant at first, found herself drawn to Chica's home, a haven of warmth and laughter. As she sat on the worn-out sofa, the scent of spices and the lively chatter of Chica's family washing over her, a strange sense of peace settled upon her. Chica, noticing the lingering shadows in Adéwunmi's eyes, gently suggested she attend a prayer meeting at her church. "You should come, Adéwunmi," she said. "It might help. You'll see." Adéwunmi, a lifelong skeptic, scoffed. "Me? Church? Chica, you know I'm not religious." "It's not about religion, Adéwunmi," Chica replied patiently. "It's about community, about finding peace within yourself. You don't have to believe to find solace there." Intrigued and perhaps a little desperate, Adéwunmi agreed to go. The church was a vibrant tapestry of colors and sounds, a stark contrast to the sterile, antiseptic world of the hospital. The singing was soulful, the prayers heartfelt. As she listened to the testimonies of others, their stories of pain and redemption, a flicker of something unfamiliar stirred within her: hope. The following week, Adéwunmi found herself drawn back to the church. She started attending Bible studies, engaging in discussions that challenged her deeply ingrained beliefs. She grappled with the concept of a loving and forgiving God, struggling to reconcile her past experiences with the idea of divine grace. Why would God allow such suffering? She questioned Pastor Adebayo, a kind elderly man with a twinkle in his eyes. "Adéwunmi," Pastor Adebayo replied, his voice gentle, "God never promised us a life without pain, but He promises to be with us in the midst of it. He promises to heal our wounds, to mend our broken hearts." The words resonated deep within Adéwunmi. Broken hearts. That was her. A surgeon who could mend broken bodies, yet her own heart remained shattered. As she delved deeper into her faith, Adéwunmi began to confront the demons of her past. The memories of her mother's drunken rages, her father's distant silences, resurfaced with a renewed intensity. The anger, the fear, the overwhelming sense of loneliness, emotions she had buried deep within, now clawed their way to the surface. The scent of gin would suddenly assault her senses, transporting her back to the cramped, suffocating living room of her childhood. She would see her mother, her eyes glazed over, stumbling towards the kitchen, bottles scattered across the floor. She would hear the shattering of glass, the screams, the chilling silence that followed. These memories were like ghostly apparitions, haunting her every waking moment. They crept into her dreams, leaving her feeling restless and disturbed. She would wake up in a cold sweat, her heart pounding, the scent of gin still lingering in the air. During the day, the memories would surface unexpectedly. While performing a delicate surgery, the sight of blood would trigger a flashback to her mother's bloody nose after one of her violent episodes. During a board meeting, the sound of raised voices would remind her of the constant arguments in her household. The memories were a constant reminder of the trauma she had endured, a constant reminder of the brokenness within her. She tried to suppress them, to bury them deep within, but they always found a way to surface, a persistent ache in her soul. One evening, during a particularly intense Bible study session, Adéwunmi broke down. Tears streamed down her face as she poured out her heart, recounting the pain of her childhood, the suffocating weight of her mother's alcoholism, the crushing disappointment of her father's emotional absence. The room fell silent. Then, a gentle hand rested on her shoulder. It was Sister Comfort, a woman whose face bore the lines of wisdom and compassion. "It's okay, Adéwunmi," Sister Comfort said softly. "Let it out. You don't have to carry this burden alone anymore." The words offered a profound sense of relief. For the first time in her life, Adéwunmi felt truly seen, truly heard. She realized that she didn't have to be strong all the time. She didn't have to pretend that everything was perfect. Over the following weeks, Adéwunmi began to unravel the tangled threads of her past. She attended counseling sessions, learning to acknowledge and process her emotions. She learned to identify the triggers that brought on the flashbacks, the smell of alcohol, the sound of raised voices, even certain songs that evoked painful memories. Her therapist, a kind and empathetic woman named Dr. Anya, guided her through a series of exercises to help her cope with the trauma. She learned to practice mindfulness, to focus on the present moment, to ground herself in the here and now. She learned to use deep breathing exercises to calm her racing heart and ease the anxiety that often accompanied the flashbacks. Dr. Anya also introduced her to EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, a therapeutic technique that helps people process traumatic memories. During EMDR sessions, Adéwunmi would recall the traumatic events while following her therapist's finger with her eyes. This rapid eye movement helped to desensitize her to the emotional charge associated with the memories, making them less distressing. The process was slow and arduous. There were days when the memories would overwhelm her, leaving her feeling paralyzed with fear and despair. But with each session, with each small step forward, she felt a little stronger, a little more resilient. One day during an EMDR session, a vivid memory surfaced. Her mother, sobbing uncontrollably, clutching a bottle of gin, begging for forgiveness. Adéwunmi, usually stoic and in control, found herself sobbing uncontrollably alongside her mother. In that shared moment of vulnerability, a profound shift occurred. She saw her mother not as the monstrous figure of her childhood, but as a deeply wounded woman, a victim of her own demons. For the first time, compassion, not anger, filled her heart. She saw the pain reflected in her mother's eyes, the pain that had fueled her addiction, the pain that had shattered their family. That was a turning point. Adéwunmi began to see her mother not as the cause of her suffering, but as a fellow victim of circumstance. She started to understand that her mother's alcoholism was a disease, a manifestation of her own deep-seated pain, a desperate attempt to escape the emotional turmoil within her. The realization was a powerful one. It didn't erase the pain of the past, but it shifted the focus from blame to understanding. It allowed Adéwunmi to begin to forgive, not for her mother's sake, but for her own. She began to see her father in a new light as well. He was a man deeply wounded himself, a man who had retreated into his work to avoid the emotional turmoil at home. He was a man who had failed to protect his wife and children, not out of malice, but out of his own inability to cope. Forgiveness, Adéwunmi realized, was not about condoning the past, but about freeing herself from its grip. It was about releasing the anger, the resentment, the bitterness that had been poisoning her soul. As she began to forgive her parents, a sense of peace began to settle within her. The weight of the past, which had been pressing down on her for so long, began to lift. She felt lighter, freer, more at peace with herself. The healing process, however, was not linear. There were setbacks, moments of regression. The memories would resurface, sometimes unexpectedly, triggering waves of anxiety and sadness. But with each setback, Adéwunmi learned to cope, to navigate the emotional turmoil with greater ease. She learned to recognize the triggers, to anticipate the flashbacks, and to employ the coping mechanisms she had learned in therapy. Deep breathing exercises, mindfulness techniques, and the support of her friends and the church community. The church had become a sanctuary for Adéwunmi. The weekly services, the Bible studies, the fellowship with other members, all provided her with a sense of belonging, a sense of community that she had craved for so long. She found solace in the stories of others, their struggles, their triumphs, their unwavering faith. She was inspired by their resilience, their ability to overcome adversity, to find joy in the midst of suffering. She developed close friendships with other members of the church, women who understood her struggles, who offered her support and encouragement. They shared their own stories of pain and healing, creating a safe space for vulnerability and growth. One of these women, Sister Comfort, became a mentor to Adéwunmi. Sister Comfort, a woman whose face bore the lines of wisdom and compassion, had experienced her own share of hardship. She had lost her husband to a long illness, raised her children alone, and faced numerous challenges with grace and resilience. Sister Comfort listened patiently to Adéwunmi's struggles, offering words of wisdom and encouragement. She taught her the importance of self-compassion, of recognizing and honoring her own emotional needs. She encouraged her to practice acts of self-care, to prioritize her well-being, to find joy in the simple things in life. With Sister Comfort's guidance, Adéwunmi began to cultivate a deeper sense of self-care. She started to prioritize her physical and emotional well-being. She started to exercise regularly, to eat healthy, to get enough sleep. She started to rediscover the joys of reading, of spending time in nature, of simply enjoying the quiet moments of solitude. She also started to volunteer at a local orphanage, finding joy in serving others and making a difference in the lives of children who needed love and care. Working with the children brought a renewed sense of purpose to her life. It helped her to shift her focus from her own pain to the needs of others. As she interacted with the children, she saw the resilience of the human spirit, the capacity for love and joy even in the face of adversity. She witnessed the transformative power of compassion, the ability to heal and uplift through acts of kindness and love. Her work as a surgeon also took on a new meaning. She saw her patients not just as medical cases, but as individuals with their own unique stories, their own struggles, their own hopes and dreams. She approached each surgery with a renewed sense of compassion, a deeper understanding of the human condition. She saw the fear in their eyes, the anxiety that gripped them as they faced the unknown. She listened to their stories, their concerns, their fears. She held their hands, offered words of comfort and encouragement, and assured them that she would do everything in her power to help them heal. Her surgical skills were impeccable, but she now understood that healing went beyond the physical. It involved the emotional, the spiritual, the social. It involved addressing the whole person, not just the disease. She began to incorporate a holistic approach to her practice, taking into account the emotional and psychological well-being of her patients. She referred them to counselors, social workers, and other support services, ensuring that they had the resources they needed to heal fully. Adéwunmi's journey of faith was not without its challenges. There were times of doubt, times when the weight of the past threatened to pull her back into the abyss. There were times when she questioned the existence of God, when she felt alone and abandoned. But through it all, she clung to her faith, to the belief that there was a power greater than herself, a power that could heal her broken heart. She learned to trust in the process, to surrender to the grace of God. She discovered that true healing wasn't about erasing the past, but about learning to live with it, to find peace amidst the pain. She learned to embrace the imperfections, to accept herself for who she was, flaws and all. She learned to love herself, not in spite of her past, but because of it. One evening, as she sat on the balcony of her apartment, watching the city lights twinkle below, a sense of profound gratitude washed over her. She had come a long way. The once empty void within her was now filled with a quiet joy, a deep sense of peace. She realized that her journey had not been about finding religion, but about finding herself. It had been about rediscovering her humanity, about learning to love herself. Adéwunmi looked up at the vast expanse of the night sky, the stars twinkling like a million tiny diamonds. She thought of the words of Pastor Adebayo. God promises to be with us in the midst of it. He promises to heal our wounds, to mend our broken hearts. And for the first time in her life, she truly believed. Years later, Adéwunmi stood in the operating room, her hands steady as she performed a delicate heart surgery. The rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor filled the room, a constant reminder of the fragility of life. But this time, there was no fear, no anxiety, only a profound sense of peace. She knew that she was not alone. She knew that she was held in the embrace of a love that was greater than any fear, any pain, any sorrow. As she guided the scalpel, her heart filled with gratitude. Gratitude for the journey, for the pain, for the healing. Gratitude for the life that had been given to her. A life filled with purpose, with love, with grace. For Adéwunmi, the surgeon's scar, once a symbol of her pain, had become a testament to her resilience, a reminder of the healing power of faith, a beacon of hope in the face of life's inevitable challenges. She had learned that even the deepest wounds can heal, that even the most shattered hearts can be mended. She had learned that faith, not in a religious sense, but in the inherent goodness of humanity, in the power of love and compassion, could transform even the darkest of nights. And as she continued to heal, to grow, to serve, she knew that her journey was not over. It was an ongoing process, a lifelong exploration of faith, of love, of the human spirit. And she knew, with a certainty that settled deep within her soul, that she was not alone on this journey. She was surrounded by love, by grace, by the unwavering support of those who believed in her, just as she had learned to believe in herself. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from the tale, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more exciting life lessons, folk tales, just like this one. Thank you.